Hey everyone, Jesse Dolan with Local SEO Tactics. Going through our free SEO audit report with you here today. We're going to show what it looks like after you run the audit and receive the PDF, how to digest that information and turn it into action items so you can make some progress on your site. We're going to be picking on Gordon Ramsay here today. We're taking his burger restaurant in Las Vegas as the example off his website, and we ran it through the tool. And this is the PDF that it spits out. We did this on June 3rd, the day I'm recording this. Just got the PDF back. And so we're going to walk through this as the example. So first thing we're seeing here on the page, starting at the top, is this is the URL that we put in back in the tool. This is the web page URL. And then the keyword that we input was burger. And you can see that would go right there. And that's basically what it's analyzing here. So it's not the entire GordonRamsayRestaurants.com. It's just this page. And then there are some elements that are related to the overall domain, but this is the page that we're talking about for the keyword. And this is the keyword that we're running it against. So here we see a snapshot of what the page looks like just for reference, and then a quick kind of summary rolling up all the scores. So it's got a 69 out of 100, so definitely some room for improvement. And then showing is that comprised of warnings and errors for where we need to make improvements, and then how many of these checks were passed. At the very top, you kind of see a summary of each section. So some of these are a little bit more important than others if I were to rank them. But really, at the end of the day, you're going to want to start with where your biggest holes are. So 0% for load speed, 40% keywords, 40% content analysis, and so on. And we're going to dig into each of those here as we go. So for each element, it's going to give you the actual segment that you're looking for, in this case, domain age. It's going to give you a little bit of information here about it. How did it score, if you will? And then some context, a little snippet of what it is, why it is, and really what it means to you. I'm not going to go through each of these because you'll be able to see that in each report. If you have the green checkbox, that means it's good. And in some cases, let's just say you bought your domain just a couple days ago, your domain age, if it's going to be bad or a low score, if you will, there's nothing you can do about that, but it's still going to show up in the report for you. So just kind of skimming down past these real quick, getting into some of the areas where you can really make a checklist of things that you need to do and take action. Page title is going to be one of these areas that you're usually going to see something that you can tweak. If not, good for you. So title length, that it contains the search query, i.e. the keyword. And here in this case, we have a warning that it does not start with a search query. So in this case, burger is what we're going for on the keyword. So it's saying not only does it need to have burger in the title tag, but it needs to start with burger if possible to give you a better score. And then, of course, to avoid duplicate titles. Meta description, you can see here each of the main areas are very similar to the title tag. The length, that it has the search term, avoid duplicate. And again, you don't have to, it doesn't say it here to start with the search query, the keyword, but definitely you want to put it towards the beginning of that so it gets read. Page URL structure, that's going to be, right here after your .com. What are you using for slash, burger, slash locations, things like that. The length of the URL, that it contains the keyword, target query, and that you're using a hyphen to separate words. Sometimes you'll get a URL where it's burger and beers, let's just say, right? If it was for an example. Well, you want to separate your words with a hyphen, is what it's talking about there. So it's easy to understand where the breaks are and that those are just separate words. And that you're not using capitalized letters. And no page duplicates. So for here, this is index status, and index means that it's in the index or in the file cabinet, as I always say, for the major search engines, because if it's not going to be served up as results. This shows that it is. If it's not, then you need to submit it and get it indexed. Image analysis, this is another key SEO area. You want to be using your alt tags or your alt attributes. Avoid long and non-informative file names for images, and use hyphen to separate words. So again, use the hyphen to separate words in your file names, just like we are up here. If this was a picture, just call it a cheeseburger on a bun with seeds, right? You wouldn't want to name it, cheeseburger on bun with seeds, all one word for the file name. You'd want to put hyphens in there. And that's kind of what this is saying is, first of all, avoid long and non-informative names and use hyphens. An example of non-informative name would be, JPG 115374, whatever, some kind of code name that just was off the camera that it took. You want to name them on purpose, as we always say. And that your alt attribute, not only are you using it, but that it contains the keyword. And down here is using unique images. This case is triggering a warning on this audit. Search engines can distinguish unique images, and you're going to want to make sure you're doing that as much as possible. Now we're getting into the content analysis, which is going to be, the actual content on the page. And that means the entire page, by the way, right? Not like under the menu, not excluding the footer. It's the entire page. So it's going to score the length, the uniqueness, which you want to strive for, that it contains the search query, and that you're using the keyword at the beginning of the content. And the beginning of the content, at least in the Western culture, is thought of as top of the page left, right? So we read top to bottom and left to right. So top left corner, starting there, is going to where your beginning is. So on this page here, you're going to want to be talking about burgers, as much as possible. And keyword density, which is kind of an older keyword metric, if you will, but still important. Again, if you want to be found for burgers on that page, you got to be mentioning them, and you want to mention them often. Here we're getting a warning, meaning that we need to bump that up a little bit. Header tags. This is also called H tags, so your H1, H2, H3. These are the headlines on the page. Usually this is going to be your H1, the first one, H2, the second one, and so on. Kind of the convention of a newspaper. Your main headlines are on the top above the fold, and the headlines get smaller to call out sections as you move further down the page. So again, here it's saying H1 is used once. You shouldn't have more than one main headline, is the idea there. And that in your H tags, you're also inputting the search query / keyword. Keyword total, just kind of rolling up the combinations there. Link analysis. This is how many links are pointing back to your website. How many are there? Outbound links that you're linking out to other websites, and then internal linking is links within your own website. You definitely want to have a mix of this. If you never point out to another website, that's not the worst thing in the world, but if you do point to another website, you're maybe citing a source or giving an example or providing a resource. Definitely looks more legitimate as a business. And internal links is linking to other resources within your website to help navigation. You're getting that kind of by nature, just having a menu. These are all internal links, right? They're going to other pages. And that's a good sign for a good, healthy website. Where this one particularly scored low is the page speed. And again, just like the other areas, they're going to give you a little descriptor in each of these snippets for each chunk here for what you got to focus on and what it means. Big thing with the size of the pages is always going to be your images. And while this doesn't give you a ton of detail, I always recommend webpagetest.org, specifically for page speed. And it's going to give you an extremely detailed breakdown of what's loading on your page. And page load optimization for desktops. There's going to be two sections here that we're going to cover that are going to look very similar. One's going to be desktop, one's going to be mobile. Usually they're going to be almost the same information with a slight twist. You don't want redirects. You want it text compressed. Most websites are going to do most of this stuff. Have some kind of caching happening. Some of this gets a little bit more technical. If you need help with any of these areas, definitely reach out to us or another agency to help. If you're unfamiliar with it, it can be a little overwhelming. Render blocking resources. You don't want anything blocking the page from loading properly. Make sure your page is not blocked from being indexing. That would be horrible. You'd be creating a page and optimizing it, but yet saying to exclude it from Google, which would be kind of crazy. Image sizes. Here it's kind of estimating what you could save if the images were optimized a little bit better. JavaScript, your scripting coding, that kind of stuff for how it's delivered, and some of the maybe plugins that you're using on your website, things like that. And here we have the mobile version. So basically the same kind of stuff up there. I'm not going to go through it in detail, but represented from the mobile aspect. Sometimes a website may load differently in mobile, so it's worth looking at. And then we're into the social media area. This is just giving quick snapshot on the popularity, sharing, and exposure you have online. And does your website have a social share button on the page? Favicon, that's going to be your little logo up here. In this case, it does have it, so it must be triggering that it doesn't have multiple sizes for different resolutions, that you're not using frames, you're not using flash, you're not mirroring, you're not redirecting, which would all be kind of shady tactics. You do have a robot text file. There is a sitemap, safe browsing, canonical, HTML validation. This one's doing a warning here, so there must be something triggering that. And then the very bottom, which is a super handy area, is this punch list. This is something a lot of people will print out. And if you're going to be doing most of this work yourself, check it off as you go. If you're delegating some of it to your team, check it off as they loop back and confirm it. If you're having an agency like ourselves do some of these areas for you, again, you can keep track of it here. And then I always recommend, as you make some good progress, go back and rerun it again and see how your score changes, see if there's anything you need to update. Otherwise, this part of the very end is super handy, just to kind of make sure you punch everything off. And what I like to kind of do is go back up here too. So you can see everything is on here. There's 24 tasks, which is going to match up with all your warnings and your errors. What I like to do is kind of take a look at where your weakest areas are here. Take a look at what's warnings and errors. And if you do print this off, just go back and you can make some notes, some manual notes, or kind of rank these as far as priority, because you definitely don't want to just start at the top and work down. That's not going to be horrible if you don't have any other method, but definitely put some specific effort into it for how you want to approach it. Whatever's easiest for you, start with the low-hanging fruit. So there you go. Hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, as always, reach out to us and we're here to help.